Hey guys, two things real quick before we get into this game. One, I'm trying some new recording settings. I've seen some complaints about the video quality, and I'm experimenting trying to make it better. This should be better, I hope. Secondly, it turns out AlphaStar as Protoss is so OP and confirms the balanced complaints of all Starcraft players that there are actually no silver or gold league games for me to grab. So the next lowest rung from unranked is platinum here on the bronze to GM series, which doesn't make for a great bronze to GM series, but we'll go through the game anyways. Thank you for watching. Here comes your dad joke. My friend is getting rich by taking pictures of salmon dressed in human clothes. It's like shooting fish in apparel. Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode here in the AlphaStar Bronze to Grandmaster series. Spawning here to the upper right hand side of the map, it is the one and only Red Protoss AlphaStar. And in this particular matchup, AlphaStar comes up against a young platinum player. This is a blue Terran. Now, before we get into too much, again, just reminding everybody here very quickly that the AlphaStar series, Bronze to GM, is just a fun little thing I'm doing on the side. For those of you who are watching and want to see more of the AlphaStar GM games, I plan to deep dive back into them. At the moment, though, PvP is kind of actually in a funny spot. So we're taking a little bit of a time travel back. This game was played between July and August of 2019. A lot more all-in plays have been created out of Terran, and Protoss isn't quite the same, but that's all right because in this time travel journey with AlphaStar, we're not really watching these games for its incredible meta play style, but more so just A, how much it's good at mimicking a human, and B, what the interactions look like when playing against a real player who has 0 APM. Oh no. They've scouted and gone AFK? Question mark? Or maybe it's a bug with the replay. Nope, it's just really low APM. Now look, when it comes down to it, AlphaStar, of course, has got some very unique traits to it. If you guys are watching this, just in case it's your first time ever, on the ladder, AlphaStar's name was not displayed as AlphaStar. This is something that the Deepmind team edited in post. Also, these game sounds are a bit loud. Let's turn that down. There we go. Sorry. Protoss, right? Anyways, AlphaStar was a barcode on the ladder, and in chat it would say good luck, have fun at the start of the game, and the only other thing it would type would be GG at the end, win or lose. So there's a lot of cool mimicry going on here, but each of these players, be it Platinum or Grandmaster, they had to opt in to play, meaning they never knew for sure if they were fighting AlphaStar, but there was the opportunity to do so. And I have to imagine the players around the Platinum level may have just checked that box for the sake of checking it off. I don't know how many of them were truly interested in battling it out here versus AlphaStar. But a couple cool things about AlphaStar, of course. AlphaStar is really good at working with information. Scouting seems to be something really well integrated into its programming. Maybe just knows the builds. Like I have to imagine that in its neural network, it does have like every single build pretty much ever played, and just has to identify what steps are being made to get to those builds. But as we can see here from this earlier version of AlphaStar, SimCity is kind of second thought and not a priority, just placing buildings down a little bit haphazardly, and that gateway serves no purpose to help things out. To give you guys a little bit of context here, in a normal game of Starcraft 2, human versus human, and ooh, this is kind of annoying to deal with. Typically you're afraid of Reapers as a Protoss player. Not afraid per se, more like you want to shut them down. So we see a lot of people, for example, build their gateways over close to ledges to block it off so the Reaper can't hop up and down, or at the front to keep things from running in, or low grounds, etc. But the point is, AlphaStar is doing none of those things. It's just building in its main base. And this inherently is not a terrible thing to do. It just wouldn't really play well and would give some advantages to human players. In fact, you can actually see it anticipating something at the cliff, but as we know, nothing's coming. It's a bunker, it's some Marines. Command center is built up on the high ground. Our Platinum player has perhaps lost a few too many games to some Protoss bullshit throughout the ages, so through sheer paranoia, has played an incredibly defensive opener in this game. And honestly, not a problem. Again, if we're measuring Platinum versus Platinum, things like this aren't that big of a deal. Precision and the difference in seconds to get to mining, that matters at the highest level of the game. But of course, it's not really a Platinum player that our Platinum player's up against. It's AlphaStar. Now, AlphaStar is going to send a Phoenix across the map to do some scouting. as regrettably there's not much information. The Adept was shut down in the natural and has no clue whether this is going to be aggressive or not. And one of the big scouts on this is seeing not just one, but 2 racks already down where there should be a starport. Add into the fact that AlphaStar saw the tech lab spinning, and it's pretty clear that this research started up. This build for Terran, I want to say typically is something that's going to look a little more all in. You go for a very aggressive push in the early game, but that's what you would do as a Grandmaster player. As far as what our Platinum player does here, it may just be for pumping units. To give a little bit of insight to the non-Starcraft people who check out these AlphaStar videos, one of the greatest tips you'll see pretty much constantly conveyed with everybody is, if you want to learn how to play this game and get better at macro, learn to do one thing really well and then branch off after that. And our Terran player has this build here where they're just building a lot of early bio. There's not going to be medevacs harassing. There's not going to be liberators going around the map, but instead just pumping out a lot of units. And frankly, that's fine, because if our human player has a lot of units to play with, then they can take a fight. AlphaStar will be doing very much similar with really strong macro. It's pumping out a ton of production. And in fact, even as good as the Terran production is right now, which by the way, I want to talk about the tech labs in a second. AlphaStar has more army supply and more units, more boots on the ground, very literally. But it's the extra tech labs here that have thrown me for a loop. Our human player, I thought, was going to start pumping out 3 Marauders at a time and just be like this really hard counter to Stalkers, which, by the way, would be actually fantastic for this. However, they're not. The productions hold up a little bit. There was not a supply block. I'm not sure what the priority there was. We do have some missile turrets placed down, and you know, the more I read into this, the more I'm like, I've been in this guy's shoes before, man. You lose a game prior to something like a warp prism and you get super paranoid, so you put down this missile turret. I've been there. We've all been there at some point, but clearly that's not what's happening in this game yet. Warp prism, for example, only just now begins. AlphaStar starts marching across the map, and AlphaStar's tech involves blink, so there's going to be some annoying harass, but that immortal is what could possibly break this bunker and those siege tanks. However, to commit to an attack without the warp prism would be a little crazy even for our AI, as there'd be no reinforcing, but also no cool micro tricks to escape any dangerous, perilous situations. Also, I'm not sure if you guys just heard that car revving outside. It is incredibly, despite the fact that it's winter and snowing, it's incredibly hot in my apartment. I have to have the windows open. Basically, because it's so cold outside, everyone else in this building has jacked up their AC, or excuse me, their heating to be like 25 Celsius or higher. Shout out to the fact that I'm Canadian, by the way, in case anyone didn't know. So even though I don't have my own heat on, every other apartment's just heating my apartment. It's so warm in here, guys. I can't stand it. So anyway, sorry if you hear sounds in the background. I can't really avoid that for this. But this push out comes maybe like a little bit later than a conventional one would, but this is also a lot stronger with the Marauders. It has concussive shells as well, so being able to catch AlphaStar's unit is going to be key for our human, but let's watch how AlphaStar handles this. Blink micro, pretty good. A little bit scared of the tanks, backs away from this. The third base is not something AlphaStar needs to commit to, but I feel with the Zealots and the Archons, this should be a cinch. Even though there's +1 weapons done for the human, they don't have medevac support. So just deal with the tanks and the fight's going to come to an end. Charges is not here either, so the Zealots are looking a little weak, but as I said, this is a cinch. AlphaStar crushes this fight. Blinks on top of the tank to get into the dead zone too. The resources lost trade, they're not exactly close to even. Quite a bit of devastation here to our poor Terran, who has certainly overstepped their bounds. Now, falling back, a tank and a bunker, this could hold the front line for quite some time, depending on how these stalkers engage this. There's not enough stalkers to just blink through the bunker and focus the tanks without taking serious damage. And that bunker plus the wall will keep the Zealots from connecting. So I don't actually know that AlphaStar can break our human in this situation, but at the same time, I don't know if our human's going to raise these dang depots or not. Is one up here still, dude? Gotta lift up one more, bud. One more. Okay, well, I guess this works too, is AlphaStar just kind of chips away at the wall from afar. Archons have a ton of HP, so they can take some of those hits from those Marines. Production seems to have ceased for AlphaStar for the time being, but this is because AlphaStar is mostly focused on warp-ins and not really a lot of tech. Our human player's production, though, full-blown. And, okay, I just gotta pause this for a moment, because, brother, I've been there. I haven't been platinum in many years, but I know this feeling of having too many minerals floating. So what do? You build 2 extra command centers, when realistically what you should be doing right now is building like 4 or 5 extra barracks, because this is not a game where AlphaStar is going to want to play you in the macro. AlphaStar is trying to kill you, or even if you don't know it's AlphaStar, the human opponent is trying to kill you So right now our production's a little bit lackluster because of those tech labs. Instead of having twice the amount of Marines out from producing twice the amount of Marines, we actually have a very limited army supply here of 20, which doesn't sound that bad on its own, but I mean, 20 Marines versus 14 Zealots and Archons, good luck. One thing AlphaStar is really missing here is charge, but I guess with +2 armor on the way, it won't be that bad. The idea for the Zealots here, obviously do big damage, but also just soak hits. Also, this is getting very awkward. AlphaStar just doesn't seem to know how to engage this situation. So keeps taking some hits on the front line and decides to back up. But with 3 bases humming, granted, not amazing crazy probe count, but enough, right? Look at the base count right now. 50 workers versus 66. And you might think, wow, our human players actually doing really well. No, look at the income difference. AlphaStar with almost 17 less workers has more money because these workers are spread out more appropriately across the bases. AlphaStar even pulled the probes off the main base, so there wouldn't be excess probes mining up here when they don't need to be. Whereas our human has all these extra SCVs, 35 out of 14 on this base, but until they can transfer them over here, gains nothing for it. So what's really cool is it's not that our human player has bad economy. It's more like just displaying how good AlphaStar is at being precise with what it has. 50 probes and not making any more because this is pretty good saturation as is. Could it be better? Yes. Gases could be taken. AlphaStar could take a 4th, but my point of highlighting this is just so cool watching AlphaStar nail the macro game and play that economy so precisely while this goes on. But of course, a double command center. It's a double expand. You get some planetary fortresses up, and we'll see those SCVs hopefully transfer soon. I'm actually quite worried that they still haven't transferred over. 35 out of 12 and 19 out of 8. There is probably just like 20 something supply right now. Actually, closer to 30 something supply right now on workers that are just not efficiently mining, and they should be over here or over here. So again, it's not about negging on the human. It's not pointing out the platinum player's mistakes. It is just highlighting the key differences here between the AI, which is kind of calculated and handled its mineral income pretty precisely. So less workers, but way more army supply because of that more cost-efficient spending of money. And this is tough too, because our Terran player, I think this is one of those games where if you were to pause it right here and give the controls over to a pro player, they could probably still work with what our Terran has. But as stands, AlphaStar is just becoming like Thanos, inevitable and powerful, and it's gonna be almost impossible to stop. The one thing that's really killing me here is we don't have Zealot Charge still. This is from a period in the game where Zealot Charge is still so freaking good. It does 8 damage on impact. The Zealots obviously charge forward. And Zealots in general are going to be just very durable units to have, especially with +3 armor being cranked out as we speak. Wait a minute. I clicked on the armor, but it took me to the weapons one. That's strange. Okay, anyways, point is the armor is coming up here very soon. Upgrades will be very powerful. Our production since the last time we visited our Terran, however, has picked up with reactors finally going down. So we see 11 Marines in production and a pretty big army. AlphaStar doesn't have Storm or Colossus. There's no easy area of effect damage here. But I just feel like numbers are going to overwhelm. Siege tanks are pretty good, but they're not pretty good against Zealots, and there's just a lot of them walking in. This isn't even like, they're not charging. It's the slowest death I've ever seen. Yeah, a cakewalk. The Planetary Fortress actually creates a very difficult barrier. It's going to be tough to close this out if all the army dies to this planetary, which, by the way, it is doing work here on the Stalkers. But at some point, the Archons, I would hope, kill the SCVs, and then AlphaStar could just focus down the rest. There's some very awkward Templar up here that don't have Storm, so they are not contributing. Fun fact, High Templar are the only unit in the game that have less auto attack damage. Excuse me, the second of 2 units that have less auto attack damage than a worker. Templar come in with a default of 4. Upgrade +1 gives them 5, so the same amount as an SCV or a probe. Broodlings are the other one. Broodlings from the buildings that when Zerg die, I think also hit for 4 as their default. Regardless, not a huge important factor to this, just kind of highlighting how bad they are without Storm. Merging them into Archons is definitely the better solution. But that fight was so bad in so many ways. And what was really regrettable for our Terran is they've got this 4th base set up, and at some point they transfer the SCVs over. That's great, but there's no way to really defend this. It's so far away. AlphaStar also doesn't know about the base. Oh, it does, actually. She's scouted it. So choosing to ignore it and push into this looks like it could be suicidal with 4 tanks set up. But realistically, I think with the way that last fight went and these 2 Immortals still standing, I think this is just like an A move to win. Attempted a run by to the top side is admirable. Done without medevacs, of course. So I think Warp and Zealots should handle that no problem. Marines are clustered, not kiting. So the Archons are just getting maximum splash damage. And the Zealots just walk in slowly. The slowest death. I'm going to make a quick Invader Zim reference. Walk for your life. Anyone catch that? Man, I missed that show. But this is a massacre. The attempt at the counterattack actually surprisingly held its own against the Warpins. AlphaStar chose the Warpin Stalkers instead of Zealots for some reason. I can't get my head around that, but this is compromised. This is done. 2 bases down and not really any retaliatory forces because all the probes transferred over. GG. AlphaStar continues its ladder domination. If you guys want to see more of these Grandmaster or Bronze to Grandmaster, or I guess in this case Platinum to Grandmaster series, please make sure to leave a comment on the video. Let me know. Hit the like button, and I'll be back with both more AlphaStar and regular StarCraft casts in the future. I look forward to seeing you on the next one.